Okay, this will be the last video I make in the state of Colorado. I've got my coffee here and I'm surrounded by my house almost entirely packed up into boxes. If you know what a do-it-yourself move means, we're kind of doing this entire move with the help of friends and just a wife and I, and it's been quite a trip. But y'all don't care about that. Y'all care about why you clicked on the thumbnail. So what I did, kind of like the third gen video about pros and cons of the third gen I dropped a few days ago, I went online to Tacoma4G.com and asked for honest feedback of pros and cons about what actual owners, not YouTube video makers, but actual owners think about their trucks. And I got a lot of good stuff to go over. Now, we're going to do this, we're going to break it up kind of in two ways. We'll cover the interior and then the exterior / engine and performance, but really two categories, just keep it simple. And things will not come in really any particular order, but I'll give you a pro and then a con, a pro and then a con, until I run out of one or the other. Then I'll just give you con or pro. But without further ado, let's launch into it. Okay, so a pro, and we're in the interior section first, but a pro that many people responded with was the comfort of the seats. I think Toyota took the years of complaining of the third-gen seats, and there was an aftermarket for the third-gen seats as far as seat jackers, seat risers go, just to make them even bearable. There was nothing special, nothing to write home about those seats before, but now everyone seems to be quite happy with comfortable seats. And that's whether it's the cloth trimmed or the Softex. Okay, con. And I saw this one mentioned multiple times, but the wireless phone charger, yet again, is a dud. If you're a third-gen guy, you have that wireless phone charger, which really was just a place to throw some change and whatever else, because it just felt like a moot point. Well, many owners are saying it does not charge fast enough and it gets hot, or it can make your phone get hot. And I say many. I think I had 3 people tell me this in the boards. Sip of coffee. A pro. The infotainment center is actually quite well laid out and responsive. People generally like the infotainment center, which would include the screen and all of its surrounding buttons and knobs that apply to entertainment purposes. Con, no automatic wipers. I've never had auto wipers, so it's not something I care about, but I know these are, I ask people to be nitpicky. Tell me what they truly are missing or really love. And you have to also remember that people come from not just a third gen or second gen Tacoma into the fourth gen, but could have come from a Subaru or a full size or diesel something. I mean, everyone's got a different experience, and now so we have a plethora of reviews that spans everyone's origin into what we have now. Okay, pro again. So of everyone that responded, everyone seemed to call the rear bench adequate or acceptable legroom. The only time that wasn't the case is when you have a rear-facing child seat, which I can attest to in my third gen. When you have a rear-facing child seat and you put it, of course, behind the passenger, you're gonna, that passenger, unless they're like 3 feet tall like my wife, you're just gonna have not that much legroom. But otherwise, they call it acceptable legroom. And if you've seen the video that's running in the background here in silent, which is my experience, I go with my father to a Toyota dealership and take a fourth gen around and get some very initial thoughts on it. You'll see that it really is acceptable legroom. We're talking like me, a 6-foot adult, hair over 6 foot, could sit in the passenger seat up front, set it to a very comfortable long road trip setting, and then get in the back and still sit there and be relaxed and not claustrophobic. So it's a mid-size truck. It's not going to be a full-size truck ever, but acceptable / adequate legroom was a very common thing that was repeated in the forums. Okay, a con, backup camera was odd or took getting used to as far as the screen goes. They say there was some distortion, and it's just different from what they're used to. One person flat out didn't like it. One person said he liked it once he got used to it. Okay, pro, and I saw this a lot, was safety settings like Toyota Safety Sense and the adaptive cruise control. Both of those things, people seem to be very happy with all of those settings. Everything seems responsive and safe. They say the adaptive cruise control on the highway is just excellent. All right, con. Remote start range is limited. I got this response from one user, and they said they had to be within 50 to 75 feet of their truck to get the remote start to work. Pro, I got this one a lot. Great visibility. Me and my third gen, I always felt like the cabin was like 5% too small, and visibility was just ever so slightly limited compared to the average truck. But multiple people commented that they have great visibility around them compared to previous gens. They say they can compare it to a full-size truck, which I think is actually quite nice. I think I actually talked about that in the video you're watching silently here. I can't remember. Okay, con, the rear seat does not fold flat, so if you liked folding previous gen seats flat for dogs, that's something you got to keep in mind. Pro, well thought out interior, as in things just make sense where they're at. Con, I saw this a few times, the JBL premium sound system is so-so or meh or ho-hum, as people had said. It's really not top of the line, but gets the job done. One person said he didn't even know if the subwoofer was woofing back there, but I'm not a big sound guy. Maybe you are, so if you are, that's something definitely to keep in mind. I'm more of an audio book and alternative rock guy. I don't need my thumping, but that's just me. My bias is showing. All right, Pro. Everyone really liked the 360 camera view when parking or just in general. That's that top-down view of your truck when the screen is set to it. And I don't think I messed with that when I was driving the 4th gen, but people seem to really like it. Con, ventilated seat is loud. I can attest to this. I noticed on my 4th gen test when the ventilated seat was on, at least on its full setting, it was kind of loud. It sounded like a computer fan just kind of whirring, and it would easily be drowned out by any volume level of music pretty much, but it's not silent. I mean, it's a trade-off. If you want the ventilated seats to really be ventilating, then your fan's going to be pumping, and when a fan's pumping, it's going to make some noise. Air movement makes noise, so something to think about. Okay, a lot of people were very happy with how responsive their CarPlay was. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, Android Auto AA. They say it was quick and it just worked. One guy did say he had some lag. So I want to be honest, not everyone complimented this, but multiple said it worked great. Con, loud wiper motor. Didn't test it myself, but they say they can hear the motor and it's loud. Pro. We talked about it again, but someone else hit again on the adaptive cruise control is very proficient, and it basically drives itself and handles turns very well. If you never use adaptive cruise control or lane assist, it's been out for quite a few years now. It's nothing to be too worried about or scared of. It's odd at first, but yeah, it's a neat feature to have if you want it, or turn off if you don't. Con, I found this one myself. Cup holders can be a little tricky. It kind of threw my dad for a loop when we were trying to put an Arizona green tea into the cup holder, the main 2 cup holders in the middle, and it just kind of you had to almost rock it into it at first. It's something you can get used to very quickly, but it's a little odd at first. And Toyota did it, I think, because it holds the drink steady regardless of the size, but it's definitely a little odd. It's almost like they over-engineered it. Pro. Okay, something else I can definitely talk about that I've noticed is how quiet the cabin is. It really is a quiet cabin, and the 3rd gen is lacking a little bit in cabin noise. When I get my 4th gen, I will compare it with a decibel meter to my 3rd gen's cabin. By the way, if you're new to this channel, we primarily cover 3rd gen Tacomas, but we're flexing out into 2nd gen and 2.5 gen Tundras, mostly the 5.7 liter. We're also going to eventually move into the 3.5 liter EcoBoost Ford F-150, which is the, I think, 13th and 14th gen, primarily the current 14th gen, but we'll be covering a lot. Anyway, we just do everything maintenance for all the trucks that we all love. So the channel is always expanding. So if you ever thought about subscribing to a channel that can actually save you money, this is the place to pop a squad at. This is the campsite to sit by the fire with and hang out, because we're never going to feed you BS. We're just going to tell you how it is, and we're not going to waste your time. Anyway, moving on. I'm wasting your time. Con. The app suite that you get on your phone, I forget what it's called, but you only get a 1-year free trial. And I'm sorry, I forget how much it is monthly after that free trial, but this is for remote start. And I've not messed with the app myself, so I don't want to sound educated when I've never really screwed with it. But yeah, you only get 1-year free trial for the app. That's just the way of the future, unfortunately. It's almost like how BMW was trying to charge for the monthly for heated seats when the heated seats were already installed in the car. It just it just makes you want to pull your hair out. All right, Pro, gauge customization. So the gauge cluster, of course, is digital now, and it's got a lot of neat customization options. People really enjoy tinkering around with that. Okay. Con. One guy did not like that the side mirrors don't auto-fold on park, regardless of trim level. I could see that being annoying, but at least it's not a full-size truck. Another con, because we ran out of pros, is the lowest airspeed on air conditioning. One user thought the lowest speed was a little too high still. Okay, final con for the interior is some people have reported minor alignment issues or door panel issues that got past QC or quality control at the factory, that either they needed to completely snug out themselves or went back to the dealership and had it fixed. Now, that is the pros and cons list, and I'll now show you a picture of it that we just talked about for the interior. And we will also now move on to the engine performance / exterior list after a quick sip of coffee. Okay, so I think I counted for the interior list 11 pros, however large or small, versus 14 cons that were listed from dozens of users from Tacoma4G.com, which is a great website, by the way. That and Tacoma World, you have a lot of great options to go learn more about these trucks. Please believe me, I am far from the only source online. There is so much out there because Tacoma's, as you have heard me talk about before, is basically a cult, but a good cult, not the drink the Kool-Aid and die kind of cult. All right, moving on to what everyone wants to hear, best for last, the engine / exterior / transmission / performance list, kind of the catch-all of everything else. And you will be very happy to hear that there are about half the amount of cons as there are pros. Again, this is from actual owners that have put upwards of, I think, 5,000 miles or more now on their trucks, and they just let me have it. They're not here to sell anything. They're just here to actually talk about their trucks and kind of drown out some of the noise that is the clickbait on YouTube. We've all seen it. Yeah. Anyway, let's just tell you how it is. Okay, so Pro. The Turbo. Everyone says the Turbo is actually quite peppy, and I've yet to find any issues related to the Turbo online. I mean, of course, when something's selling in the tens to 20s of thousands, you're always going to have an issue here and there. But the Turbo does not seem to be a common issue of any kind right now. But people like the Turbo. And then they dive in a little more on that, which I'll talk in a second. So Pro, Turbo. And I know that it sounds kind of generic, but we'll talk about it more here shortly. Con. Someone said they were unhappy with their fuel mileage, and I get that. You think were certain vehicles getting even better than the Tacoma? But while still being a truck, the Tacoma, I think, lists 19 and 23, 19 city, 23 highway. And their complaint, and I hate that word, it's not a complaint, it sounds whiny, but their objective findings found they were averaging 18 city, 24 highway, which is a jump from the third gen, but not a massive jump. You'd think a 4-cylinder and a turbo, you could squeeze something a little better out, but the engine's peppy, and you see me driving it in the video and being actually quite happy with it, but I'll move on. Okay, so Pro, easy to pass on highway. Boy, do you third-gen guys like me know that passing on the highway was a trip sometimes because the 3.5-liter naturally aspirated, tuned with a weak set of tunages from the manufacturer, from Toyota, was just not done right. And there's ways to overcome that with the third gen and certain actual proper tunes. But enough on the third gen. The Pro is it's easy to pass on the highway in the fourth gen. Con, Undersized spare tire. Yeah, certain lower trim levels just come with a squishy's the wrong word, but an undersized spare tire, like a glorified donut, not much better. So that's annoying. You feel like if you're paying this much for a truck, you should at least get a full-size spare, but not the case. Okay, big pro here. Big pro for a number of reasons, but easy to fit larger tires. Even 33 inches don't rub. I've seen even people put, I think, 35 inches without a lift and only rubbing slightly. But Toyota played it smart, and they're letting you stuff larger meat under there without rubbing. And that's nice because back in the day on second and third gen Tacoma World forums, the most common question was, what's the largest tire I can fit under my truck without a lift? And goodness, that question got old. People's eyes, including mine, would just glaze over with that question. It's like they'd never heard of Google. But anyway, I try to be the nice guy and just give people the answers and not gatekeep just because they're new to the forum. I'm ranting. Moving on. Okay, a con. One user said the paint is kind of soft and they've had chipping. They think it's a little weaker than previous Toyotas, which Toyota trucks don't exactly have the best reputation for chipping paint, but he specifically had the underground color and says he's already got a number of chips he needs to touch up. Pros, superior shocks to the third gen. They're beefier. I think this was a TRD off-road guy talking about this, but they're beefier. They absorb better. He thinks specifically that when the 5100s come out for the fourth gen, unless they already have, he doesn't think it would be much of an upgrade because it's already there. Con, you can hear the bed on bumps. Of course, a composite bed, and this user said that when going over bumps, he could hear it, almost like a bed shell liner in a metal bed from a different type of truck, he explained. And I'm not sure on this one, but I didn't want to leave it out. But he can hear his bed on bumps. Pro, there is no dang start-stop engine on these on the fourth gen. Nothing you have to disable every time you get in the truck. Every time I drive my wife's Honda CRV, a 2023 CRV, I think we can all attest to it. The start-stop feature, although forced on manufacturers often, is just so annoying. Okay, moving on. And it's not on the Tacoma. Big con. Everyone complains about this, and I see why. Smaller gas tank. I think, how big is the fourth gen? I think it's 19 point, you're going to hear me typing, fourth gen Tacoma fuel tank size. I think it's 19.5. I was wrong. It's 18.2. Goodness, what was I thinking with 19.5? 18.2. That is, so I'm going to tell you right now that I think a larger fuel tank will be one of the more common aftermarket upgrades that you'll see people buying because they say it limits their range, and even though they're making better mileage than their third gens, the smaller tank is just not helping them get the range they want. So yeah, I think you'll see an aftermarket for larger tanks because there's a small aftermarket for larger fuel tanks already. Okay, so moving on to a pro. All right, now this is subjective, but I had a number of people say it's just fun to drive compared to their third gen or even second gen. But the second gen, I think, had the upper hand over the third gen with peppiness. But it's fun, they say, and I know fun is such a broad word, but they just enjoyed driving it. And I can attest to this as well because when I drove that fourth gen with my dad, it actually was fun. It was quick, it was nimble, and I liked it. So yeah, con. This is probably my biggest con of all of them. But the parking brake is no longer a pull lever. It is a little electronic parking brake button. And I hate it on my wife's CRV. I don't think a truck should have it, but yet here we are. Not a deal breaker for me, but I just wanted a pull level parking brake because I always use my parking brake. In Colorado, I'm parked on a slope. In New York, I won't be. But yeah. Okay, so pro. A lot of people have been saying this. The engine paired with that transmission powertrain setup, that 8-speed paired with that engine, that 4-cylinder 2.4 turbo, just works. It's got a good power band across all RPMs, which I can at least talk about up to 60 miles an hour, I think is what I took the test drive for. It really feels good. And you got to think, when Toyota said, hey, we're going to put this powertrain setup in our Tacomas and 4Runners, all of them, regardless of trim, I mean, that's a huge gamble. So let's hope they did their homework, and longevity equals current performance right now, because I like the setup. I really do. And speaking of longevity and turbos, I know a lot of people still are anti-turbo, and that's totally fine. I'm not here to change your mind. I just want you to think, like, maybe dive in and look at what Ford's been doing with the EcoBoost for the last decade. Look at the 2.7 and 3.5 EcoBoost and try to tell me those aren't good engines, especially in their current renditions. But we've got 3.5 EcoBoosts that are surpassing 300,000 miles easy now, pretty much problem-free. So turbo's not a new invention, but it's just something to think about. Some food for thought. All right. Okay, cons. Oh, here's another big one for me. Even the TRD off-road just comes with like that fibrous kind of thick polymer, fibrous kind of mesh, cheap armor under the belly as a skid plate brush guard. And it's more like a splash guard. I wouldn't call it a skid plate, but a splash guard. So there's going to be a large aftermarket, which is good because it keeps prices kind of down when there's a competition for some under-the-belly armor for our trucks, because not even having basic, thin aluminum or steel for some belly armor is unfortunate. All right. Pro, less shifting on the highway. And what they're trying to say, this user, is that you're not gear hunting, and you definitely aren't. I didn't get on the highway in my test, but that transmission was smooth. It really felt good. Okay, guess what? We only have one con left, and then we got a bunch of pros. Tailgate alignment, con. 2 users had said that their tailgate alignment was out of whack from factory, and it had to get adjusted at the dealership. So it's something to check. Check all your nooks and crannies when you get your truck. I'll be doing the same here in a few weeks. All right, moving on. There's only, quite a few pros left, but low-end torque, as we talked about, it's there. It really is. The truck gets up and goes. It's not the slog fest that was the 3rd gen before you tuned it. It feels good now. Pro, handles well and soaks up bumps. I can also attest, I didn't take it on any rough roads when I had it, but it does handle well. I can't talk about bumps, but it does handle well. It's nimble and it feels solid. It feels similar to what a 3rd gen or 2nd gen after a new set of 5100s puts in as far as cornering goes. It just feels confident is the right word. Okay. Someone said the turbo sounds nice. I did like the engine noise. That's just me. It was quiet in the cabin, but aggressive sounding. And I liked it. I did. I don't have complaints there. Okay, pro, coils in the rear feel great, instead of course, talking about what every Tacoma in the past has had, which is leaf springs. 4Runners for the 5th gen had coils in the rear. And it's just the future. I think coils in the rear is just going to be what we're used to now, and leaf springs are a thing of history. At least for the typical on-the-road driver, I see leaf spring purposes still for big flexy off-road builds. I'm sure some 4th gens will even be converting back to leaf springs when they start building some crazy rigs. But for the everyday driver like me and probably you, coil springs are the thing of the future, and people like them. Pro, the stance feels like a full size. I agree. When I was driving the 4th gen, I felt like I was in a factory height, maybe F-150, but not quite as wide. But I felt like I was not a small vehicle on the road. And you don't feel like you're a small vehicle on the road in a 3rd gen either, but I felt bigger. It boosted my ego. I was more confident. I felt like I could talk to women. My wife stopped yelling at me. Everything just was, the world was spinning a little faster, but not in a dangerous way. So, yeah, the stance feels like a full size, and I think that's a good thing. All right, and final pro I got for you is a user had said that the bed is deeper than the 3rd gen. I never took measurements or Googled it myself, but they think there's just more storage now versus their 3rd gen, but their 4th gen just offers more storage. And so that really wraps it up. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14 pros for the engine performance exterior category versus 8 cons. And that's saying a lot. I think, as long as, here's closing comments, but I think as long as the 4th gen or this powertrain, this setup, does not become an utter failure that the 22 to 23 Tundras have had, which I think this would devastate Toyota because they're already, of course, planning to put it in their 6th gen 4Runner. But if this engine, turbo, transmission combo continues to please owners and not die at the drop of a hat, I think Toyota really did a good job. You know me, that's my opinion. And for those that won't be upgrading, love you just the same. There's my 3rd gen in the video, by the way, which I will never sell. And there's another 3rd gen staring at it. Mine's the black one. But I love my 3rd gen. I've loved all my Tacomas. I've had 5 now, and when I get my 4th gen, it'll be my 6th Tacoma. And we'll do videos on the 4th gen, many more on the 3rd gen. I'm now diving into videos on the 5.7 Tundra. I'm actually shooting some tomorrow. In Colorado, but not editing yet. Holy crap. Shooting's easy. Editing takes forever, but that's just a nerd side of me talking. But I'm monologuing now, but I feel like it's a good time to bring up some final closing comments. But the channel's expanding. When we get some Ford trucks in here, what I need the Toyota guys to do is corner them and beat them up, bully them, make sure they continue to sit alone at their lunch table like they've done all their entire life. I'm just kidding. We're all friendly people here. If you didn't know, we have a Discord. The join link's below, but there's a few hundred people in there, and we help each other out as often as we can when you just need quick help, quick advice. Completely free. You don't have to be a channel backer or not. It's just a good extra feature to the channel, and there's a lot of nice people in there, always willing to help, and I really appreciate that. So shout out to Greg. He is always working in the background, answering comments with his name. He'll always answer Greg if it's him, and if there's no name, it's me. It's only 2 people that answer comments here, and I try to get to as many as I can. But yeah, channel's growing. I really appreciate y'all hanging out here, and I hope to continue to offer you guys high quality content that is clear and concise when it comes to the maintenance side as often as I can. And I think long-term plan, I retire from the military in ballpark of 6 years, and this is my retirement plan now. I'm going to be video editing and making this channel grow into something gargantuan. So yeah, I don't got any more words or comments. I think I've said everything I can. If you're still here, I really don't know why. But I'll be in New York in a few days, and then I set up my big garage and start filming some more videos for y'all. I thank you guys, as always, for hanging out. If you're not a subscriber, that's cool. If you want to be cooler, go ahead and subscribe. And I will catch y'all later. See ya.